We're live.
Yep.
It looks like it.
All right. Who wants to start first?
Maybe you can go first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sonya. It's very nice to meet you. My background was in product design. I've been in product and design for a marketplace, actually a different marketplace, for maybe 6-7 years. And 3 years ago, I made like a career shift to Web3. And obviously, it was like a challenge to learn all about like decentralization, DeFi, being a creator myself. Like I'm always trying to find out about like how to use like this supposedly self-sovereign system to help me like to build and to monetize more from it. That's me. David,
Okay.
maybe you can go. Oh, sorry.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm David Morris, co-founder of the Raptoreum project and head of the DAO for Nowput.finance. I've been in crypto since the very beginning and have made all of the horror story mistakes that are in there. I had a laptop stolen back in late 2010. I'd been mining on, so there's a considerable amount of BTC that'll never move that was on there that wasn't backed up elsewhere because it didn't have any particular value at the time. Yeah, I've been doing quite a bit of stuff on wallets and security, and we do have an unofficial cooperation agreement with several of the larger wallet providers, MetaMask. We've also worked with what is it they're called, Phantom, and the ones with the really unfortunate exploit for Solana a few months back. I can't remember what they're called at the moment. So it's a topic that means quite a bit to me because we've got a large community and we want to try to basically look after them as well as we possibly can. But it's not always easy, particularly when you take into the account the predatory nature of a large percentage of the space. So yeah.
Sorry about that laptop.
No. I'm fine about it. The laptop was the more important thing at the time by far. I was a broke teacher. So losing a laptop in 2010 was a major disaster. Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy to go next. Yeah, so I'm Karen. I'm actually based in Switzerland, and today I'm joining from the Crypto Valley conference, which is pretty exciting. And I work for Fiat24, and essentially we're using Arbitrum to let you transfer money instantly, unlocking new ways to pay, get paid, and convert your money. And we have a DApp or a DApp that can be accessed in any browser or your favorite crypto wallet directly. And therefore, our interest in wallets and security is also particularly interesting. So I'm looking forward to this discussion with you guys today.
Great to see you, Karen. So I'll go next. Yeah, I'm Chris. I have a very strong background in programming and software engineering, and I'm co-founder of Wavect. We have a small Web3 agency where we basically engineer smart contracts, NFT marketplaces, and all that stuff revolving around it. And yeah, I'm happy to be here tonight and talk about Web3 wallets and identity. And maybe I'll just start in with when I think of wallets and security, I kind of always have that FTX problem back in my head. So I was not affected by it, but we've seen that a lot of people have had a lot of funds lost in there. And so I kind of, when I think about security, I think people should have the ability to store their own seed phrases and private keys, but I don't think that they should have the responsibility to do so. And with responsibility, I think of maybe the news with Ledger, that they now allowed to recover. It's still unclear, but I think this responsibility should not be on the user's end. So I would really appreciate your thoughts on maybe the Ledger thing, or what you think about wallet security in general.
Well, I mean, browser wallet extensions are garbage. They're all garbage. The only remotely okay wallet in the Web3 space at the moment is something like Frame SH, or running a full node for whatever chain it is you're using, running your own Geth. Trusting a company like Ledger to not export your seed phrases and not export your stuff is madness. It's antithetical to everything that crypto, blockchain, and decentralization is about. What they've done is they've betrayed the trust of millions of users, and I wouldn't be very surprised if they don't end up like the American brewery Anheuser-Busch, basically being pummeled into obscurity by users, because a company being able to access your funds in your wallet is just completely wrong. There is nothing right about it. And we've got that whole trust is a little bit like a sandwich. It really is in so many ways, because you've got two slices of bread. If you're only grabbing one thing from the fridge, what are the chances of you ending up with an upset stomach? But once you start adding condiments, like smart contracts, you start adding some cheese that may have been in there for a week or two longer than it should have been. How fresh is that mayo? You start getting into where you're taking real risk. And there is an awful lack of awareness in the space of every time you send funds to a centralized exchange, you're gambling. You're running a real risk. You run the risk that those funds aren't coming back out. There is a real risk every time you deposit funds into a smart contract. Solidity is not fully developed, stable, or really usable programming language. The number of exploits in it, from people not updating, and we're talking about minor point version updates, not it leaves the most of the Web3 space without any kind of credibility.
So what then, David, my question to you is then, what actions or measures can we really take in this space then? As you've highlighted a lot of, pain points, or, places where we can maybe fall, into problems, as you mentioned quite correctly, but what would be your recommendations?
Wallets need to leave browsers. You're insane if you use something like MetaMask or Phantom or something like that. Literally nuts. You shouldn't be on the internet if you use something like that, because it is the single most exposed point on your PC. It's the piece of software that does all the connections to all of the sketchy websites. If you accidentally click on an advert or something like that. Oh, there's MetaMask in there. Let's attack it. Next time you log into MetaMask, oh, please approve. And the average user is just going to click OK.
So which wallets do you think are doing a good job?
There's
I
only
would add to that a little bit, like based on your feedback, I think, David, maybe in some ways I agree, and I have been doing like some research on that. I haven't gotten to any, but like, are you kind of suggesting that like something like how do you call this, like an offline hardware would be better for this? How
you
do
need
call
to
this, like hardware wallet?
first get them out of the browser. That's priority number one. Having anything inside your browser is basically like driving around with the wallet on the outside of your car. Even if you've super glued it on, let's say you super glue it on, you go out for a nice little drive, funds may or may not be there when you get to where you're going. It's as unfortunate as that. And if you're using browser wallet extensions, you are relying on external RPC providers, some of whom are prone to censorship. We've seen Infura, they're censoring users in Venezuela based on ridiculous American sanctions. Perfectly normal Venezuelan people are blocked from using MetaMask with Infura as the RPC provider. Completely unreasonable.
Well, I think it maybe is a good segue to talk a minute about account abstraction and maybe what that could do to address some of our security issues. If anyone has an opinion, wants to start on this topic.
Yeah, definitely. I would just go quickly back to what David said. So I basically agree with everything. It has to get out of the browser. But I don't see that strictly for most of the users. A cold wallet, Sonya, like you mentioned, does it perfectly well. And for those, I for example, have got a small trading wallet in the browser where there are not that the funds in there are like I can lose them and it's still the sun is still shining. But I don't see it that strictly. If you have a ledger as and you have your own keys, which this is what makes it really useful. But yeah, as you said, if you're using browser wallets, you're driving a car with the wallet outside. That's it's a pretty good description. And account abstraction, definitely, yeah. So what I can add to that is it's been around now for 2 years, I guess, with several EEPs. And the great thing about ERC 4337 was now that it must not change the Ethereum protocol in that way like the other EIPs do. And with account abstraction, you can definitely revolutionize the space. Definitely. Besides recovering your funds, well, let's say your keys, account abstraction does way more than just, hey, there's a multi-signature or there is a recover function. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good step to take for certain. It's actually been out for longer than that. There's an ETH fork called Ether1 where they've had an implement of it running for, I believe, 3-4 years, something like that.
Okay.
Because it was something they cared rather. They're a bit more privacy focused than the Ethereum mainnet, which has been remarkably lacking on that account.
And I know that Argent is one of the wallets that I believe is starting to make use of these technologies and try to, like, yeah. Do you guys know a little bit about Argent?
I've seen some of the things they're doing, and I mean, it does look promising, but I haven't looked into them properly to really comment on specifics. probably the single easiest one to use, if you also look at hardware wallet integration and that kind of thing, would still be coming back to something like frame.sh. It can even inject itself into browsers, so browser-based services think they're interacting with MetaMask, where in fact they're not. Which is a reasonably positive thing. But we need a lot more privacy on chain, really. It's there should be some form of shielding available, ZK shielding or similar for your cold storage. If you're sending out funds, there's no need for the world to be able to see exactly how many funds you sent from where. As long as you can prove that those funds are yours when you're sending them, that's really should be good enough. It's not the blockchain's problem if there are ridiculous regulations in certain places. To me, it seems more like a problem, really, if the blockchain starts to respect that kind of censorship. We can see it, for example, with Tornado Cash. Individuals being sanctioned by the US State Department. If that isn't overreach, I don't know what is. Because, I mean, they weren't even really earning anything in particular on it. They were earning what? I can't remember how much gas it was. The developers of the protocol were getting paid from it, but it was minimal. It was absolutely minimal. You couldn't even really call it getting paid. And then, yeah, people are getting prosecuted for writing code and publishing it. That's nonsense. I mean, I don't know how many years I'm up for then, but lots. I mean, what would be a really good thing to see is that people basically move away from EVM as being a solution, because consensus and some of the other centralized entities obviously do not have the user's best interests at heart. Not with how they've implemented. Yeah.
Completely moving away. Yeah, it's okay. Completely moving away from EVM. Can you explain further what you mean by that?
Moving on to UTXO-based blockchains or something like Polkadot, where you've got the option to use WASM for smart contracting. You've got much better options, really. Even what's it called, Kadena, offer better options for contracting. The problem with Kadena is Haskell is not really the world's most friendly programming language, but they can send Ethereum cheaper and better than you can on Ethereum, because they've got access to basically better tech for making the transactions than the EVM allows for.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about how we think wallets can be improved so that the average person can kind of jump into crypto and DeFi, because I think that still seems to be a big problem.
Like, yeah, I guess we kind of understand like the issue. I mean, maybe I speak from a creator's perspective, and we are always kind of like searching for like a better wallet, a better functionality, and some of us do have like an issue to find it. But supposedly, like with what we have right now, right? how might we get like more user base to actually kind of like adopt it.
Well,
are you
I
guys
think,
familiar?
yeah, I
Sorry.
think, yeah, one thing that I see is that still, like, actually, David, I have to say I really disagree with you. I think MetaMask is one of the best wallets out there, but we can agree to disagree.
From a security perspective, it's garbage. It's hot
Okay,
garbage.
I'll take your word for it.
But it's from a user experience point of view, I agree. It makes a lot of things easier for the users, but not in a good way, because it comes at the cost of basically all these rugs. Hey, free airdrop. Click accept in MetaMask to get free airdrop from this site, and poof, your wallet is now empty.
Yeah, but that could happen with any number of wallets. So I don't think MetaMask is like, anywhere.
MetaMask is particularly at risk for that.
Okay. Well, regardless, my point was that one basic thing, like with Sonya, like talking about like making it easier for people. I think one,
because as I agree with Karen actually, because I understand from the security perspective, maybe it is like more gobbly on the inside, but at least like up until this point, at least based on my experience, like that would be one of the easiest, like the easiest place for any person to start, and eventually those like eventually we need something for acquisition. I think MetaMask is there at the moment, like that helps us with the acquisition. So I have to say that up until this point, like all the transaction that we do, it's easier to tell people, okay, hey, you can pay me in MetaMask, and they immediately get to it, and then we immediately like start the transaction.
Yeah, but that's for people that actually are already in the space. And I have to agree with David on that. I dislike MetaMask not only because of the security reasons, but also from the UX standpoint. I think I always...
Really? Why?
Yeah, if I think of my parents and telling them to create a wallet on MetaMask, forget it. That won't work. And all these, I dislike not only the UX, also the UI of it. There are certain things that can be done better. And if we're talking about mass adoption, those are things that should be done. All the pop-up style. Yeah.
But don't you think today, like MetaMask, at least from what I see, I use Coinbase, I've used a couple of them. Like, don't you think whatever MetaMask is kind of offering is the most user friendly to get people in, even somebody like older, like it's right there, in my opinion, of course.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy
Phantom
to use.
is at least as easy.
It's easier.
At least as easy, but it doesn't have Ethereum Foundation backing, and it doesn't get spammed out by basically every other basic scam chain influencer out there. I mean, there is a lack of willingness in the space to seriously engage with topics like security, user safety, and when you have a wallet as a browser extension, you can't really see what the wallet is doing. If you're running something like a full Geth client, you can actually see what it is this contract you're interacting with is trying to do.
Yeah, but if you're asked to make multiple signatures before taking certain actions, then, and I'm talking about several times that you're forced to sign before making transactions or doing anything, I think that does allow the user to like understand like what's happening and to
provided that there is a decent standard for working through that process in a step-by-step manner across the space. And there isn't anything like a standard like that.
But the question is, interestingly, do we think that it's the wallet's responsibility to, like, you know, I mean, to what level are they responsible? Because the space is full of scams, and it is easy, like you said, with all of these airdrops and stuff like that, it is easy to fall for something sketchy. But to what degree do wallets have to take responsibility or educate people about how to use them safely?
At a minimum, they need to show what the result of it is. And they don't do that. Unless you're running a full node or similar. If you can't see the end result of clicking sign here, then basically they're facilitating the scam.
I would like to ask, actually, I mean, how would you guys see that, like, based on like whatever we have right in hand today, is there anything that can be implemented that could help people to want to use it more, regardless the security issue, right? Like, where do you think that we can make it like at least a bit better?
Well, one thing is, for now, your wallet address is still made up of letters and numbers. And for me, also, that makes me quite paranoid when I'm trying to, like, do transfers, because, you know, like, you have to just really double check. And I know that, like, an Argent wallet, you can name your wallet, like Karen's wallet, and then you can, like, use, like, actual real world names, you know. And I think that would help to make people less scared that they're not sending all their money to, like, the wrong address. That's one thing that I think could help.
Yeah, but I mean, ENS, definitely. ENS, for example, making use of that, or other name services, that's something that really should be standard in a lot of places. One of the things, I thought he was actually going to be with us, Laurent. Or he may be taking a break between spaces, but one of the things he's working on is basically making it easy. Instead of having to pay as you go, you can pay a subscription, and then you're using a name service instead of having to every X amount of time update the whole thing. And I mean, a name service can accomplish the same thing. And I mean, it's certainly helpful. Okay. Oops. I'm now talking to somebody in the private chat. That's not good.
So yeah, that's one area that I see that could be improved. And of course, as we all know, using these seed phrases, I think we need to do away with them, because I think I have like 10 different wallets, and then I have different amounts on each one. And it can become quite burdensome, you know. Maybe we can make multiple ways for people to, like, recover their wallet in case. I think that's still a big problem.
Yeah.
This is where account abstraction can come into play, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the whole BIP 39 and BIP 44 process that's used for those seed phrases is basically making use of tech from Bitcoin that Ethereum imported back in the early days. And it's one of the technically, it's one of the simplest ways of doing a human readable recovery of those cryptographical keys. And they are really what matters in blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can also touch a bit about privacy, because so far I think we've talked a lot about security, but maybe not too much about privacy. So if anyone wants to start on this topic.
Well, if
Anything
no
you have
one,
in mind on that one?
if no one else wants to go first, one of the most promising things anywhere in the space right now is going on over on something called the Firo project. They used to be called Zcoin, but are now called Firo, F-I-R-O. They have just finished a cryptographical audit on a protocol called Lelantus, and an additional protocol on top of that called Spark. With the Lelantus protocol, you can essentially wipe out the transaction record for your coins, which means when you send them onwards, there is no history attached to these coins. You just know that they are from where they were sent to you.
Yeah, but I think, you know, people obviously in every sector, they care about their privacy, but in a way, if I go on RBScan, for example, right now, and then I can see this address sent this much, you know, did this transfer, but I don't get to see the name. So I don't really know who it is attached to in real life. It's not like it says Joe, whatever, you know.
Yeah, but I mean,
So in a way, I don't.
Using an actual privacy protocol, you wouldn't even get to see the balance.
Yeah, but I'm like, personally, I don't really see that there's too much of an issue. Like, I don't really care if people can see that I used, you know, my whatever to buy whatever. Like, I just don't see. I mean, personally, it's not a problem for me.
I think it
I don't have anything to hide.
Becomes a problem once I can track back everything and create my diagram or graph from your activity over the last couple of years, for example, not days or months, but let's go back a couple of years. And this is something I cannot think anybody wants.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
then what would you do?
Oh, if he's a real asshole, report you for not filing your taxes correctly, or all kinds of stuff. Or try to blackmail you because you've hidden some money somewhere that the tax man doesn't know about, or try to basically, let's say you're an influencer, you've received a private payment. It's nobody's business who's paying you.
But there's never really any transparency, not in traditional finance and not in crypto. So
that's not correct. It's very easy to backtrack everything on a transparent blockchain. I mean, that's why so many of the Ethereum scammers get busted. It's why so many of the Ethereum addresses are essentially blacklisted by Tether, by USDC, by lots of people, by chain analysis, etc. It's, and with the advent of AI and relatively easily trainable AI, it's only going to get worse.
So if you had to share your thoughts, David, because it seems like you've been in the space for a really long time and you seem to be quite knowledgeable, what kind of best practices would you share with people?
I mean, I would go in and out of something like Monero or Pirate Chain occasionally. If
I mean, in general, for best practice wallet use in regards to the two topics of security and for privacy.
For security, browser and mobile wallets are a no-no. A lot of people in the space are actually using mobile wallets for large amounts of money. That's because they have absolutely zero understanding of how easy it is to hack a mobile device. All of our data on mobile devices is routed over something called the SS7 network. It's very easy to attack and suborn. The problem is it's hard to not get caught doing so. But once people can see that there is a nice reward from doing so, people get SIM swapped, people get their phones hacked, they get all kinds of stuff dumped onto their phones, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Yeah, what about the mobile wallet that Solana made? What do you think about that?
I think that was the one with the exploit in it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Again, a lot of tech is rushed to market before it's really ready for it. For example, smart contracts on EVM chains are all written in Solidity. Solidity has matured somewhat since 2017, when the Ethereum chain got ground to a halt by CryptoKitties. But it hasn't really matured to the same level as something like Java, Python, Scala, R, C, C++. It's nowhere near those levels. And that's why you have all the DAO hacks, you have all the exploits. There's a great deal of dishonesty in the space from the side of people like Consensus about what's going on. And about this code being production ready. It's not production ready. It's been a long time since somebody has exploited a basic token contract, but if you go back just 2 years, that was also happening frequently. If something was in slightly older versions of Solidity, the token contracts themselves were at risk. And I mean, you have to be a big institution like Tether to basically be able to make sure that everything is kept up to date. That's not a reasonable expectation to have of users. The UTXO blockchains don't have these issues. You don't have the same problem on Bitcoin or Litecoin. You can build a lot of DeFi products on the UTXO-based chains. That's what I'm doing now. Over at nowput.finance, we've got options, contracts, all that kind of stuff. Got a paper coming out on it in either at some point this week or the week after, basically about how you can use something as simple as transaction tagging. And then when you've got your transaction tagging, this is very technical, but you can put a tag on a transaction. This shows you want to participate in something in specific, send it into an address. That address can be kept completely cold until such a point as whatever it is you're participating in, the predictions market, an options contract or something like that, comes to execution.
Well, I think that's interesting, but it also sounds a little bit complicated. And actually, I believe wallets and other DeFi protocols in general should be working towards making everything a lot easier instead of more complicated.
Oh, but I mean, it actually is easy if you take a look at it. We've got an MVP we're building.
And what level of knowledge do you have to have in order to interact with your services or product?
Click on basically your single clicking and pasting that into a window in your wallet, and that's it. And then you send in a transaction of whatever size you want.
It's as simple as that, maybe.
Yes, it's, but you have to run a Qt or Electrum wallet, which is not for everybody. It's not hard, but at the same time, it's not for somebody who's grown up zooming on a cell phone. Because
but also depends on your needs. For example, if you are not dealing with big quantities of money, I assume using something like MetaMask for, like, you know,
I mean,
would assume that
it's that view really lacks perspective, because for you and me, losing $10 doesn't matter. For you and me, probably losing $100 doesn't matter. But for someone who is getting paid for, let's say, having done some pay-per-click marketing or pay-per-post marketing or similar things to that in, let's say, Latin America or Southeast Asia, losing $100 is a disaster. That could be a month's wages we're talking. And it's very disingenuous and, frankly, somewhat Eurocentric or US-centric to think that because it's okay for most of us here, that makes it okay for everybody. It's not.
Yeah.
And those are the majority of users. So, I mean, sure, a lot of us, if we're sitting somewhere nice and comfy in the EU or in the US with a decent job, we don't have the perspective necessary to evaluate this.
Well, personally, I'm
or have
really
an opinion on it, really.
I'm an advocate for having cryptocurrencies to be used as, you know, a form of payment. Not in the way of thinking that we should just hold it or treat it as an investment like we do here in the West. I totally believe in the value of, you know, having it being used, like you said, in Latin America and other countries where there are many unbanked people, or Africa. I recently held a Twitter space with Mad Wallet, which is also based out of Nigeria, and they're really working hard to try to develop a product which can help people to do cross-border payments instantly and all through the mobile phone, and having access maybe even to USDC, which they otherwise wouldn't have. So, I mean, I advocate for this kind of use case for crypto. My point was that maybe not everyone has $50,000 that we think so much about, like security or like daily use, or if we use it on the mobile or on the desktop. That was my point. I'm saying, like, some people there's like different levels of like how technical people are, or how much money they have, or why they use it. But, you know, I think you seem to be really anti MetaMask and browser. And actually, I really think that wallets should integrate browsers more, because it's just the best way for people to, like, I think connecting through your wallet is going to be the way forward for like everything from like digital identity to stepping into Web3 and accessing dApps.
It's an awful idea. You're a million times better off using something like Trust Wallet on your mobile. And using
I do use Trust Wallet, yeah.
I mean, and using that to interface with whatever website you're on. The problem is when you put something into a browser, you put it at risk. And there are no two ways about that. There isn't any way to harden a browser to the point where your stuff isn't at risk.
So how can people enjoy any kind of dApps then? Because anyway, you have to connect your wallet.
I would like to add a little to that. Like as much as what you said, right, David. I'm an Indonesian, so I understand what you mean about like the kind of thing that losing $100 in Southeast Asia. It is a big thing, but we do have to say that at the moment the users of this wallet are also the people from the west more than from the east, and the people from the east, for people from the east, like myself, for example, that the kind of transaction that we do with like the mobile wallet are also not like that huge amount, but mobile wallet is still the way for an acquisition for us. So instead of at the moment, I guess like I would say probably for people who are still from a developing country, obviously something like a tumbling service, even if it's like in a mobile wallet, would actually be more valuable to us, more than like a complicated one. Like,
I think that David has. I agree with him, but I think he has somewhat a very harsh view on MetaMask. You can use MetaMask and be safe for a year or two. There's a lot of people who, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people out there who solely use MetaMask. Never mind. Those points he said are true, and I would not want to have all my funds at MetaMask.
Yeah, I mean
trading.
this is also one thing that's badly lacking from the space: user education, because exactly like what you mentioned earlier, and I mean, in order for us to get privacy and security into the space, we need to get education going in the space where people understand that a browser wallet or a wallet on a mobile phone is not for storage. It's for your walking around and spending money.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. I do have to agree with you.
yeah, okay, this
Yeah.
I do. Like,
I
it's
mean,
a transaction.
it's not. The problem is when we don't have enough education in the space, we get people storing on these devices, and that's when we have the issue. I agree with you guys wholly that it's the simplest thing to do. But
I still think that education is not the key. So I'm a big fan of education. We do a lot of educating young kids in the space with workshops and so on. And I still think education is not the key. It shouldn't be necessary.
Yeah, I
to do
agree
that.
with you. Yeah,
There should be somewhat a way better way of accessing these services. Like, best example, my parents, they don't give a about which blockchain or which wallet is behind. They use it because they see more benefits in crypto than in a traditional finance or banking sector. And this is what I think will ultimately lead to mass adoption. And educating is good, definitely, and is currently needed, yes, but it shouldn't be needed in a couple of years.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I guess when it comes down to it, then the product itself that needs to be enhanced and not the people.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, until the product meets the standard we all want, I don't think we've got any disagreements on the standard. It's what we've got to do to mitigate in the meantime.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that there's still a long way to go before mass adoption can ever really happen. There's a lot of work to be done. I mean, even from someone who works in this space like every day in and day out, there's still always so much to learn. I mean, it's endless. So,
but I would say that's a good entry point to start advertising it as a transaction base instead of a storage, it's a transaction, it's an in and out transaction. This is what your wallet is about, at least until we have the right security. I think that would also help to giving people less fear about adopting it.
Yeah. I mean, I think also coming back to what was just said before, like, I feel like now we all kind of instinctively know how to more or less use traditional e-banking or any other kind of app that we have on our phones, like banking or social media things. Like, we've all learned how to use them. And I think the best thing we could do is, like, with Web3 dApps, is to like kind of mimic and hide the technology as much as we can, like to mimic Web2 apps. And I think that would already help people to be less scared and have less of a learning curve. I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, that would be the fastest way possible.
Yeah.
If people are accessing web pages and all that, everything that's in the background, I don't care, but it's also the most difficult thing to do.
Eventually, the
I
security
completely
will be
agree.
enhanced.
I completely agree. It needs to get to the point where people don't even realize they're using blockchain tech.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it's like what you said before. It's like, you know, most people don't care what blockchain they're using or, you know, like your app is using or running on. They just want to make a transaction or they want to do a trade, and that's it. Like, they don't need to know any more about like smart contracts or what's the blockchain or anything like that. I agree.
Yeah. But I mean, the space for that to happen, solutions like EVM need to migrate over to what Polkadot offer with WASM. What several chains are also looking at moving to Apache Spark, basically because they offer better contracting and programming languages. The Solidity developer pool is still tiny if you compare to any of the other programming languages, and right now it delimits what can be done because there are really not enough competent people working on Solidity for it to be the basis for things moving forward in most cases.
Well, I think we basically have to wrap up this discussion, but if I'll just give my closing thoughts, is that it's been really nice to meet all of you, and Chris, to see you for like the third time, maybe, I don't know. It's always good to see you, and I think you guys are doing really great stuff, and you do really make good content that does educate, so you guys are doing cool stuff. And Sonya, it was nice also to hear from you and your input. And David, I think you are the star of this show with all of your deep level knowledge, and I will connect with you and try to learn more. And I was happy to play devil's advocate and challenge you. So thanks to everyone who listened and to all of you guys.
Likewise, everybody.
Yeah, it's been good stuff. Oh man, you're in Indonesia. I'm kind of jealous. I would like to be. I'd like to be dealing with Indodax instead of. I have to use Luno here in Malaysia. It's painful.
Are you in Malaysia?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been in Asia for 25 years or something like that.
Wow. Have you always been in Malaysia, or you move around?
I was in China for 12 years and have been in Malaysia for 13 years now, almost.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you guys.
Yeah. Thanks guys.
Likewise.
It was good. It was good.
And I'll connect with you all. So
I will separately.